Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Otumba Adams Show. My name is Adams Oluwafemi Olajide. Welcome specially. This is the 173rd episode, and on today's episode, we'll be looking at important lessons you can learn whenever you fail. Before the show started, I was actually singing a song that what doesn't kill you make you stronger, and yeah, on this show, I'll be talking about ways in which you can actually learn from failure. I'm sure that like a lot of us have actually learned from like, failure over time, but I'll literally be reiterating the points, and that is what we'll be doing today. Now, if you're out there, you're watching me right now, I hope you're good. I hope life is treating you fairly. I hope you're acing your goals and you're giving the world the very best. All right, but if this is the first time that you will be a part of the show, you probably wonder like, okay, what is this young charming man is doing at the back of the microphone? Well, I talk about entrepreneurship, leadership, and every other thing that would actually help your business journey in life to grow. Okay, so if you're there right now, you'd like to introduce yourself, please put your name and location in the comment section, and I will welcome you, especially while we are live on stage. Okay, so down to what we came here to do, what we can learn from failure. I'm sure that like a lot of us have actually gone through a phase or the other where we failed and we nearly almost gave up. And I'm sure that like when you realize that like not giving up, show that like you could actually still grow, then you at some point started seeing life like okay, no matter how bad it is, you can always bounce back. But what are the lessons that we could learn from failure? That's what I'm looking at. And especially for you, those of you that are into business and you're like, okay, I want to like enter the business and I'm afraid of failing. I know a lot of people will probably like mock me and all that. So what can I learn whenever I fail? That's what I'll be doing today. Number one thing you need to realize is that like success is never guaranteed. It is one thing that like you need to have at the back of your mind before you're into business, right? If you have this notion that like okay, I want to attend to business and then like I want to have this what's the word now? I want to always ace, I want to always win. My brother, my sister, it ain't gonna happen. And if you're that type of like you're always waiting for that perfect moment, there's never gonna be a perfect moment. And if you then fail and then you then regard yourself as a failure, then your perspective towards that business, towards life is wrong. You need to realize that like success is never guaranteed, right? As much as you hope to win, there'll always be also rather the moments whereby you would lose, all right, you would fail. And if you have that on the back of your mind, you know that like, whenever that happens, I can always strategize and then come back up. All right. So number one on the list is that I know that success is never guaranteed. There will be days that like, you will win, and there will also be days that you might lose in the long run. All right. So that's number one. Number two on the list is you will learn to embrace change. Now, one of the things about people failing, especially when you are so adamant and hell bent on a particular perspective towards life, is that when you then fail, because you need to succeed, you have no choice than to embrace the change that's happening, especially when a change is coming and then you choose not to go with the flow. For example, the era of typewriting and then when the computer age came about, all right? When people, when the typists of old, right, um, would use their pen and then like they felt that like they were masters, then over time they then realized that like they started losing clients because the world was changing towards the computer. Now, if you're still stuck using the typewriter, right, you realize that like you're going to fail on the long run. But because you are passionate about typing, you're passionate about the business, you realize that like the only thing I can do is for me to embrace this change and then transit into using a computer because it's faster, it's better. I can easily make corrections to mistakes. I don't have to start using Tipex and all that. Now, this particular example I'm giving is one of the fact that like I grew up in an area in Lagos where there are a lot of people who stay around the magistrate court in Lagos and they type or they help people who came for court cases to type and all that. Now, along the line, a lot of them would realize that like okay, they probably would have made mistakes while typing, and people were then moving away from people that used typewriters to computers. I know that like there are some people that are still using it to till today, but one thing is this change is inevitable. When you realize that like your clients are leaving you for people that are using better tools, you would have no choice than to embrace that change. All right, that's one thing. That's what failure teaches us. Number three on the list is your weakness is an opportunity to bounce back. Your weakness is an opportunity to bounce back. What do I mean by this? There was a time that like I wrote um, GC in Nigeria. You know what GC is in my SS2 going to SS3, and of all the subjects that like I was hoping to pass, I only failed chemistry. And then I realized that like if I were to move in this trajectory, right, I realized like chemistry seemed to be a weakness for me. If I were to move in the trajectory, I might still fail again in the WIEC that I was hoping to write the following year. So what did I do? Or what I did rather was that like I focused on working on my weakness. I realized that like chemistry was my weakness and I could not afford to fail the main examination. And then I spent more time, more resources trying to like build my skill, trying to like build my knowledge around that subject. So also in your business, also in life, whenever you fail, it's an opportunity for you to work on your weakness. You realize like this is the reason why I failed, right? This is the thing that made me fail because I am weak at this. I should try my best to work on it or get people into my team that are better off in that particular aspect that I am weak at. And before you know it, when I go forth to do that same thing, I will not fail again. All right. So that's the beauty about failing. You get to know what your weaknesses are. You work on your weakness and then you bounce back. All right. So that's number three. Number four on the list is your perspective is broadening. All right. Whenever you fail, you realize that like, okay, what are the other options that I have, or what are the other options that I could actually consider for me to be able to like find a solution to this problem that I'm facing, to this temporal failure that I am experiencing at this point in time. And while you're trying to like search for newer opportunities or newer ways of doing things, you get to realize that like your mindset begins to open up, your mindset begins to broaden because you realize that like there are probably more options that you did not even try to tap into. But because you were myopic at the beginning or you had limited resources, right? You didn't know that like, there were more options. But now that like you failed, you start asking yourself like, hey, what are the other options that I could probably have? I'm going to cite an example using people that write, uh, say, WIEC or NEPO or probably like people that try to get into the university. And then they're like, okay, I tried entering into the university using JAM, right? But I realized that, like, okay, I did not pass. Now, if you did it the first time, did it the second time, and then you realize that, like, okay, how can I find a newer way for me to be able to pass? Start asking questions around from people around you, people that have actually gone through the process, and then they then start enlightening you that, like, okay, how about you try out a diploma program? How about you try out a pre-degree program? How about you try out um, what's the word? Going to a private university. Now, these are more options given to you, broadening your mindset beyond the thing that like or beyond that scope that you felt that like was the only option for you. All right. So that's the beauty about failure. You get to start looking for other options and then seeing things from other angles that you never would have thought of if you had just passed or if you had just succeeded using that one method. All right. So number four. Number five is not every idea is worth pursuing. That's one of the things that like you realize is failure. Especially when people have already told you that like, hey, this thing is not worth this. And then you then decide that like, well, I'd rather learn from mistakes. And then by the time you then do it, you then realize that like it's not everything that like you actually have to pursue. It's not everything that you actually have to. The share is learn from people who have gone ahead of you. Ask questions from people, but they tell you that like don't go this way, right? And more as in more people are also telling that like do not do this thing, but you decide to do it. On the long run, you have yourself to blame, but also you will learn that like it's not every way or it's not everything that like you have to do. It's not every business idea you have to pursue. It's not everything that comes to your head that you feel that like has to come to reality because you could easily have learned from people who have gone ahead of you, who have actually done it, who have seen that like this thing does not work. And even if you were to even venture into it, your your brain will tell you that like, why don't you just invest something little into it? Why not, rather than for you to go in like using all your resources at once, you then learn that like, hey, I could as well just put in a little, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you will fall back, you move back, rather than you venturing into it fully, wasting all your time and resources, and you get blunt for it. Number six on the list, which is my penultimate number, all right, is it teaches you humility. Whenever you fail, life humbles you, right? A lot of us have failed at one point or the other in life and business. I could remember the time that like I was hoping to get into the university in I graduated from secondary school, and the first year I did not. The second year I still did not pass my exam. I had to like go right to the fifth. And during that period, I was, well, at the back of my head, I always felt that I got very, very good. I was like, I knew good trouble. But I then realized that like, yeah, I wasn't that. Not that like I didn't have the potential to be the best, but at that point in time, I wasn't that. So like, I was humble that as much as I felt or like I thought at the back of my head like I'm good, like life just showed me like I'm good, you're not good enough. All right, and that thing that like also happened to me at the point when I entered into business and I entered into farming and did not seek enough advice and lost everything. It humbled me because right now, whenever I want to do something, I make sure I ask questions. I make sure I try to get a mentor, and then like follow someone who actually knows the way, rather than me trying to like do everything all by myself. Yes, I might be intellectual, but I have also come to that realization that like it's not everything that I can do by myself. I need to lean on people for me to be able to grow. It is not just by how brilliant I am. I can learn from somebody that's little, I can learn from somebody that's my age mate, I can learn from somebody that's older than I am, irrespective of what part of the world the person is from or what tribe or religion the person practices. I am humble enough to say, please teach me because I really do not want to fail. Again, all right, so that's number six on the list. And then the last point that I have is it makes you more compassionate. All right, it makes you more compassionate. And how do you become compassionate? When life has shown you that, when you failed, and then like you realize that like, wow, hey, this thing happened to me. Now, when you see other people going through the same thing, you feel compassion towards them because you also realize that like you have been in their shoes. You do not judge them for the mistake that they are making. You do not judge them for failing. You realize that like it can easily happen to anybody, or probably like because you have actually gone through that same phase, you feel compassion towards them, and then you are able to encourage them and tell them that like, hey, you know what? I have been through what you're going through right now. I know where the shoe pinches, and I can actually help you out and make your life better. All right, it makes you more compassionate than who you were originally. Thank you, Mr. John Asiego, for telling me that I am doing a great job. Thank you very much. Don't let this comment. Oh, dear. Okay. All right, so Mr. John Asiego says, great job. Thank you very much for being part of the show today. All right, then. This brings us to the end of today's episode of We Take the Numbers from the beginning. I said number one is success is never guaranteed. Number two is you will learn to embrace change. Number three is your weakness is an opportunity to bounce back. Number four is the perspective is broadened. Number five is not every idea is worth pursuing. Number six is it teaches humility. And then the very last number is it makes you more compassionate. And this brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope you have been able to learn something tangible today. But before you go, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your loved ones. Right? Tell somebody about this show. It holds every Wednesday and on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how busy I am during the weekend. And I will see you again this coming weekend, my God's grace. As I always say, be the best version of God has created you to be. And from me, Adam Zuluafa today, I say, have a great evening. Bye bye.